Hello, everyone. You are listening to Cinemagic Bookshots on YouTube, and today I am going to talk about the book Sex and Rockets, The Occult World of Jack Parsons by John Carter and Robert Anton Wilson. And this is published by FeralHouse. If you know about their publishing house, they do a lot of occult books. Jack Parsons, of course, he's got his name, a crater on the moon, on the dark side of the moon, named after him. He is the founder of rockets and the reason why rockets are able to travel. And he was also a follower of Aleister Crowley, a very, very famous magician, occultist. And I'm going to start right in the beginning of the book and do about the first 5 chapters. Right in the beginning, it says, "A Marvel Walked Among Us" by Robert Anton Wilson. And it says, "I seem to be living in a nation that simply does not know what freedom is." This is a quote by John Whiteside Parsons. Let me show you how he looks. This is him right here. This book tells the life story of a very strange, very brilliant, very funny, very tormented man who had at least 3 major occupations or vocations. He also had no less than 4 names. He acted as a scientist, as occultist, as political descendant, and often as a simple damned Egypt, just like you and me. His best known book is called "Freedom is a Two-Edged Sword," which increasingly influences the libertarian and anarchist movements. Gives his name as John Whiteside Parsons on the cover and title page. This is an odd bird. He actually had the legal name of Marvel Whiteside Parsons. So on here, the author tells us, "I shall use all 4 of our heroes' names. John Parsons for the scientist, John Whiteside Parsons for the libertarian philosopher, Jack Parsons for the occultist, and Marvel Parsons for the original template." He was born October 2nd, 1914, and died June 17th, 1952. He was born in Los Angeles, so city of Los Angeles in California. And his astrology year of birth, it says World War I had started. The Rockefellers killed some people, and the suffragettes and feminist movement started with Margaret Sanger. It says Charles Taze Russell, founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses, announced that the apocalypse would begin on October 2nd. Coincidentally or synchronistically, the very day Marvel Whiteside Parsons, who would later, as Jack Parsons, call himself the Antichrist, emerged from his mother's womb or from an even darker place and began to investigate and meddle with this planet. Also, Also in 1914, Aleister Crowley, which rhymes with holy, and his current mistress, violinist Leela Waddell, staged something called the Rites of Ulysses. In London, several nights of quasi Masonic ritual music, poetry, ballet, and drama. On the first night, the actors informed the audience, Nietzschean fashion, that God is dead and mourned and grieved over the departed deity. Things became even stranger after that, like the bardos in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And on the last night, the audience received the elixir of the gods, a wine containing a high dosage of the psychedelic drug mescaline. While they willy-nilly entered chaos, and the void of chorus announced the dawning of a new aeon based on Rabelais' law of Thelema, do what thou wilt. It says Margaret Sanger and the suffragettes also left a mark. No male writer since John Stuart Mill on the 19th century has shown more empathy for feminists than John Whiteside Parsons. It says, look at it this way: in John Parsons' 1930s to 1940s sci fantasy world, everybody he knew had already started discussing the possible humanity and human rights of extraterrestrials and robots. And it says, who put the light in enlightenment? I need not add that freedom is a dangerous thing, but it is hardly possible that we are all cowards. This is another quote by him. It says, amid endless controversy about them, all agree that the Bavarian Illuminati began on May 1st, 1776 in Ingolstadt, Bavaria, created by a Freemason and former Jesuit named Adam Weishaupt. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, the Illuminati managed to influence many Masonic lodges and gained a commanding position in the movement of anti-royalist, anti-papist, and pro-democratic secular humanism. They attracted such literary men such as Goethe and Herder, but the whole movement came to an end when the Bavarian government banned the Illuminati in 1785. So says the standard reference, which I agree on that. Like, I don't think it ever ended. It just changed many names. It says Leopold Ingalls Roos co-founded the OTO. Crowley made a list of holy saints for his Gnostic Catholic Mass. Okay, and it says the central Masonic myth of the widow's son, Hiram, the builder of Solomon's temple, murdered for refusing to reveal the Mason word to three ruffians, derives from actual events in Egypt. They aver the Mason word does not mean a word in the usual sense, but acts as coded euphemism indicating a secret. And I think in the Freemasons, they do this ritual where they make up a word. Um, and he, of course, wanted to be known as the Antichrist. He says the time to fight for freedom is the time when freedom is threatened, not the time when freedom is destroyed. For that later time is too late. Freedom is threatened now. The destruction of freedom is not far off. Now is the time to fight. Okay, and on the introduction still on Roman numeral 21, it says no God, no master. Margaret Sanger. As you have gathered by now, I do not regard Parsons and Crowley as black magicians or Satanists or anything of that sort. Magic has many aspects, but primarily it acts as a traumatized system of psychology or neuro-linguistic metaprogramming to train us to break out of the cage of the socially conditioned ego, and by plunging directly into the chaos and void from which we emerged, experience a rebirth into a new sense of self, a world, and of chaos and void, knowing directly by experience that all these names hide the same hidden unity, the wonderful magician who makes the grass green, makes the sad man sad, makes the angry woman angry, and makes the loving heart overflow with further love endlessly. Dr. John Lilly called this process metaprogramming for the human biocomputer. Dr. Timothy Leary, conscious of his debts to both Crowley and Parsons, called it serial re-imprinting of our reality tunnel. As Terence McKenna often says in his lectures, you can do all this by yoga, but only if you can spare 7 years of your life or longer sitting around an ashram meditating. Magic works faster, especially when united with the ancient shamanic ecstasies of full sexual release and the proper entheogens. Crowley said, and Parsons liked to quote him on this, there is no God but man. That sounds sexist these days, but you all knew what he meant. He also said every man and every woman is a star. To confuse this with atheism seems to me as wildly off the mark as confusing as it is with Satanism. It quite simply means that all ideas, perceptions, experiences of the divine or the immortal refer directly back to the latent powers of the mind that contains them. As Jack Parsons knew, and as Freudians will readily see for themselves, the whole magical struggle in Parsons' Babylon working, recounted in chapters 7 and 8, unleashed on one level, a violent confrontation with Marvel's Oedipus complex. Babylon presents the mother and the whore, the opposite archetype of the male mind. To say it aloud when making love to Babylon as Cameron, Jack Parsons did consciously what all men do unconsciously. He F-word his mother. Wow. And the Oedipus complex is this right here. It says the Oedipus complex is a psychoanalytic theory that describes a child's feelings of attraction to their opposite sex parent and hostility towards their same-sex parent. This theory was first proposed by Sigmund Freud in 1899. It is named after the character Oedipus Rex from Sophocles' play, in which Oedipus unknowingly kills his father and marries his mother. So yeah, so this is based off of that Greek story. And it says, only in the rational and unknown direction can we come to wisdom again. This was John Parsons' letter to Cameron in 1946. And in the preface, it says, how shall I write of the mystery and the terror and wonder and pity and splendor of sevenfold star that is Babylon? I shall tell of the tragic life of her most devoted disciple and beloved son, known to her as Frater Beleriand and to the world of men as Jack Parsons. In The Rebirth of Pan, Jim Brandon says that Parsons is one of the few names that turns up repeatedly in reports of anomalous phenomenon. He does not mention Jack Parsons by name, but I think we shall see that the attribution is fitting. Parson Jack, for instance, was a devil along the lines of a better known Spring Hill Jack, who accosted astonished villagers. Our Jack was likewise hounded by his own devils. In the aerospace world, there was a joke that JPL, the initials for Jet Propulsion Laboratory, actually stand for Jack Parsons Laboratory, or even Jack Parsons Lives. How would you react to that statement? That one of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory founding fathers was a practicing ceremonial magician who attempted to summon a dangerous spirit and incarnate it into human form by impregnating a woman during one of his rites. The rite failed, and just a few years later, the same Parsons would sign an oath stating he was the Antichrist. This man was at the same time the author of several once classified government documents on explosives and patented means of rocket propulsions, and the Aerojet Corporation, which he personally founded, now produces solid fuel rocket boosters for the space shuttle based on his innovations. On his innovations. The remarkable Parsons died at the early age of 37 in a mysterious explosion that even today is not definitely explained. Was it murder, suicide, or simply accident?